Okay then, am I finally live here? Let me check it out on the page. This has been a very interesting experience in technical glitches, shall we say. There's 2 people watching. Okay, cool. Yes, I am live. That's awesome sauce. Cool, cool. Hi, Alexis Krohn. You are always so on top of these live events here, and I totally dig that about you. Sweet. Hey, we've got Ethan is Uno on here as well. Cool. Hi, guys. So I'm going to do just a quick hour-long little thing here. So the core idea I wanted to start with was basically kind of giving out some gift ideas for people who have flow artists on their holiday lists, and also just to take Q&A questions from y'all. I have to leave the house at about 4 o'clock Eastern time, so I am open and free to chat with you guys before that. So to start this whole thing off, 5 presents for the flow artists that are on your particular list. Bear in mind, there's no way for me to know what tools they spin or kind of what angle of the flow community they happen to be in. So I was trying to brainstorm 5 possibilities that would work for pretty much any flow artist that you might possibly have appear in your holiday list. And so here are these 5. Starting off with one of the most useful things that I have in my world, which is these little gorilla pods that have a cell phone clip on them, which are great for, you know, taking down quick ideas or flow sessions or what have you. They're like, these are like 20 bucks. I've got a link to them down in the description of this video. And like, literally it doesn't matter if they're a hooper, if they're a poi spinner, so on and so forth. These are like useful to literally everybody. So if you have a flow artist on your list, this is a good possibility of something that you can start with. Item number 2, Bluetooth headphones. So these are the ones that I'm really into. They're made by a company called Arctic. You can find them on Amazon. And again, I think these are like 20 bucks. And I've had these now for like 5 years. They go on the outsides of your ears like this. And number 1, they're pretty durable. You have to be doing something very, very, very athletic to knock these loose, let alone off. And they also have really big drivers inside of the headphones, so you get really, really good bass response off of these. Again, the link to these is down in the description of the video. Oh, and Fox Club Fox says, thanks, your videos helped a lot. I am so glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that they are help. Usually I just see numbers when it comes to the videos that I put out there, so it is actually really good to know that those videos are making a difference in somebody's life, including yours. Cool. Moving right along. Item number 3, I can't really show on screen, but it's a ticket to the flow artist of your choice's favorite flow festival. There are a number of different flow festivals that are already offering early bird tickets, including Flame Festival. You can actually find a list of flow festivals as well as ticket buying links at drexfactor.com/calendar, where I keep track of all of the different flow festivals and their workshop application deadlines and vendor application deadlines, things like that. And you can find ticket links there as well. You can also sign up for updates if you are curious to get those. Also, for all of you guys out there, even though I'm going through all these, please feel free to start loading up with questions for me for when we reach the Q&A portion of this here video. Yeah, and I will get to them when I wrap this whole part of it up. And I'm hoping that this is useful to those of you out there who are looking for gift ideas for the flow artists on your list. Yeah. So number 4. Bags from Modek Designs. Now, Modek makes a lot of different varieties of bags. This particular one is for stabs. And if memory serves, I do have a couple in here right now. So Modek's gone through a couple different versions of these bags here. And the latest ones are definitely the best ones that they have. They're made out of really, really, really durable canvas. They have great zippers on them. And I really love all the little pouches, both inside and on the outside of the bags. This particular one you can easily stick a water bottle in, which is fantastic and great for walking around at festivals. These are also super helpful because they wind up being useful as check bags if you are flying around with your props. Again, you can find the link to Modec down in the description of this video, and they make bags for hoops, for staves, for fans, what have you. So this is, yeah, this is going to be super duper useful, especially if whoever you're giving a gift to is using staves or hoops, because they're a pain in the butt to travel with. Yeah, cool. And my final suggestion for a gift for the flow artist on your list are these fire blankets that come from Mayday Atlanta, a guy named Adam May who lives in Atlanta. And what's cool about these is they're made out of commando cloth. They're not made of duvetine. So you can actually machine wash these, which is fantastic. He also embosses them with these really beautiful designs, and you can get your name embossed on them as well. They also have this kind of edging with a reflective layer, so they don't get lost in the dark. Like most duvetines that are dark tend to just wind up in a really big, unpleasant black pile at the end of the weekend. So it's pretty easy to keep track of these, and again, they're machine washable. They work just as good as duvetines. They're a little bit pricey, but think of it as being that this is really buying your next 4 or 5 duvetines. They're going to be with you for a while. They're super duper durable, and I just honestly like getting to have my own custom fire blanket. So yeah. Links to all 5 of these things are down in the description of this video, so you can go pick them up for the flow artist on your particular list for the holiday season. Yeah, so if any of you guys out there also have suggestions that would be good for pretty much any flow artist out there, I'd love to hear them. And I will start diving into some of these questions and comments here. Huzzah. So I've got Fox Club Fox, I already got you. You said thanks for your videos. They help a lot. My pleasure. Foster's Factory says, what hopefully cheap would you suggest for an hopefully cheap poi would you suggest for an absolute beginner? Have you tried the ones from Extreme Glow before? They're like $3 each, so I don't know if they're poorly made or what. $3 sounds like a really, really poorly made set of poi, but I've never used them. Honestly, if you've got someone on your list who you just want to give like an entry set of poi to, I recommend the sets of poi that are made by Spinballs. These are like 20 bucks, and you get a set of LED poi that are surprisingly adaptable, as well as a little backpack to carry them around in. Plus, they convert, I believe they convert to both sock poi and also sets of poi that have like the tails on them. So it's a really, really good deal for only 20 bucks, and it's one of those things that, like, probably after about a year or so, if they're really sticking with it, they're going to want to upgrade to something that is a little bit higher quality product. Well, not higher quality, but more, I guess, flexible a product, and that might be when they're in the market for flow toys or something like that. So I would recommend Spinballs for an absolute beginner. Hamazrael Cactus says, hello from the Czech Republic. Ah, Dobry den, or is it Dobry Noc by now? How late is it there? Yeah, it's probably Dobry Noc by now. I know a little bit of Czech, not much. I lived there for like 8 months back in 2004, and I was just back there visiting in June. So yeah. Good to hear from the Czech audience. Foster's Factory says, the stream is so convenient. I hope to get my first set of poi around the holiday season. I hope so too. Yeah. So fun story. So when I first started spinning poi back in, the first time I saw poi was at Burning Man in 2006. And when I got back from Burning Man, I tried to find a friend that would teach it to me. And I finally found one, and I went and did a lesson with him, and it was an absolute disaster. I was terrible at it, and I actually kind of like gave up and just decided that it wasn't for me. And then my roommate came back from Thailand with a set of poi to give me as a Christmas present. And it was because I had that set of poi to work with every single day that I started working at it and getting much better at it. So I'm a big fan of Christmas poi because that is what kept me in this world. So good luck on that front. Eastwood HD asks, a little off topic, are you planning on doing a top 10 favorite poi spinners for this year? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. The video for that usually goes live like somewhere around the 9th or the 10th or something like that. I think that that's a Saturday or a Sunday this year, so I'm probably going to have the voting video go live Monday of next week. But yeah, it's absolutely coming up this year. Who's your personal top 10 favorite right now? I don't know if I can pull 10 off the top of my head right now. I would say poi spinners that I'm definitely going to be talking about, posting for my own suggestions for the top 10 would be this girl, Caitlin Louise. She is a poi spinner from South Africa who does modern dance poi fusion. Her Instagram channel is Smoke and Stardust. And she's doing some of the coolest stuff on poi dance fusion, I think, out there right now. So I'm like, every single time she uploads a new video to Instagram, I'm like, must watch now. I would also say that Ty Rochford is doing some great work on poi dance fusion, as is Grant Baker. And kind of like just on a personal note, I am probably going to throw Joe Graff and Gina McGrath into that list for myself, simply because, like, to me, my favorite poi spinners are not just the people that are doing, you know, really incredible tricks or anything like that, but people that are adding a lot to the community. And Grant Baker and Gina McGrath are doing so much work right now on consent in the flow arts world and creating resources for people who've been assault victims and everything. And these sadly enough, are not resources that we've had in the community before. So I think the work that they're doing is unbelievably important, and I will probably be putting both of them on the list as well. Yeah, I haven't had time to sit down and think about it, but those 5 are just off the top of my head. So, which 10 are you expecting to put on there? Let me know. Phil Keeling says, my girlfriend got me some Speevers poi for Christmas. Thanks to you. Excellent! Yeah, the Speevers poi are fun, aren't they? Super cool. Thanks for the review. Yeah, my pleasure. Also, if any of you guys out there want to help support this channel right now, I don't think you can do this on mobile, but if you're watching this feed on a laptop, you can contribute to the channel by using the super chat function, and it would really, really, really help me out because this is my full-time job, and if you got a couple bucks to throw my way, I would really appreciate it, and I'd be more than happy to show you any trick that you want in exchange for that. Cool. So Will Hamilton says, hello again, working up to my Frankenpoi. Woo! Emoji heads came in the mail. I love them. Fantastic. I love the emoji heads too. One quick tip on the emoji heads. When you first get them, they can feel a little slick. Like they don't have the same kind of grip that vinyl contact balls do. It takes like somewhere probably between about 10 and 15 hours of practice on them to wear down the sheen on them to the point where they're more grippy and they behave like stage balls, which is really funny because vinyl stage balls, like when they show up on contact point and everything, when they first show up are super grippy, and they start losing that grip over time. Like they kind of wear down to a glossy finish and they become more slippery over time. And emojis work completely the opposite way. It's really funny like that. But yeah, I would get those emoji heads up to work as soon as possible and get that sheen layer off so that they start gripping your hand properly. I was wondering how you put smithy rope in pod capsules. Oh yeah, sure. So, as it happens, I have my pod capsules here with me right now. So basically what I did is I took the smithy rope, and doing this is actually kind of a pain in the butt, but it's the best way I've found to do this so far, is actually, provided I can get this out. So I got a whole bunch of washers from Ace Hardware, and basically what you do is you melt the rope and you cut it along a diagonal and melt it again and use a set of needle nose pliers to whittle the tip of it down as much as possible. Hey, Phil Keeling! thank you so much for the super chat, man. If you got any questions that that I can answer for you, please let me know. Please let me know. Yeah, so once you got it whittled down to like kind of a point, you push it through the end of the washer and you use those same needle nose pliers to kind of yank it all the way through. And once you've got the entire kind of point clear of the end, cut it, melt it, and stamp it down. And whoa, Eastwood HD, thank you for the $10. My goodness, thank you so much. That means a lot. Again, if you got any questions you'd like to throw my way, I would be more than happy to answer them for you. Yeah, so you mash down the top layer like that and everything. So everything's kind of stuck behind this washer. And then you can slot in the washer at the very, very tip of the pod light. And it fits in perfectly fine, and that rope is not coming out. That is the best way that I know to connect smithy rope to the pods. So good luck with that. Getting the rope through the washers is kind of a pain, but yeah, that is the best way I know to do this. Cool. Yep, cool. Somebody whose name is written in Cyrillic, so I can't read it, is writing, "Hello from Winter, Russia." Hi from Winter, United States. They are actually saying that we are going to get our first snow of the year here in DC today. So I've been looking out the window every few minutes here to see if those first flurries are coming. They're actually getting snow in places in the United States that never get snow. Apparently they've got snow in Texas right now, which is crazy. Popcorn Kitsune says, personally I have a set of flow lights that I spin and I'm thinking of upgrading. What would you suggest? The old school flow lights, like the kind that you find in Ultrapoi. I mean, you can't go wrong with upgrading to Podpoi, honestly. Like, Podpoi are just such a versatile way to spin poi that, you know, that's what I would honestly recommend. And if you head to FlowToys, please use my promo code DrexFactor with a 0 instead of an O, and you'll get a discount at checkout, and it helps me out too, which is awesome. And again, thank you both to Phil Keeling and Eastwood HD for helping me out on the super chat. If anybody else has a couple dollars you want to throw my way, I would super appreciate it, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have or show you any tricks you want to see. Thank you in advance. Let's see here. Warren Woodruff says, with your tech spinning, is it a case of if you don't use it, you lose it? Yes. Yes, it is. Do you need to keep practicing all of it? Yeah, awful confessions. I have forgotten most of the stuff that I have I have done videos on. Oh, Will Hamilton, thank you for the $2, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you got any more questions, please throw them my way. Well, going back to the original question. So yeah, there's frequently a thing that happens to me at fire festivals where people who've learned from my videos will come up to me and show me some trick they learned from my videos and ask me questions about it, and I won't remember the trick, and I'll basically have to relearn it, like, on the spot, which is such a pain in the butt and really embarrassing. So yes, absolutely, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So make sure that I mean, and here's the thing, is you don't need to hold on to literally everything that you have ever learned. A part of the process of figuring out what your style is in poi is figuring out what to hold on to and what not to hold on to. The stuff that you hold on to eventually comes together to become the vocabulary that makes you a unique poi spinner. So keep working on the stuff that you're interested in or that you think looks really cool, and eventually that will turn into your style. And sometimes you don't even know that that's happening. Like, there was a moment, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, when I did a poi video, and the beginning of it was me playing with crazy anti-brig combos. And somebody, I think it was Peter Miranai from Sweden, said, hey, yeah, that combo at the beginning is so Drexy. I'm like, what do you mean by Drexy? And he's like, oh, you do all these anti-brids all the time. And until that point, I had no idea that that was a thing that people looked at as being a part of my style. It was certainly never something that I had thought of as being a part of my style. So these things can sneak up on you. enjoy practicing and enjoy kind of finding your own voice with all of it. And don't be stressed out so much about having to keep up with everything. Think more about what makes you unique and what uniquely appeals to you, and play in that sandbox. It's a rewarding place to go. All right, I've got so many questions that I have moved past here. Where was I here? That was Warren Woodruff. Yeah, cool. Warren Woodruff also asked, what are your favorite things to do when firepoi are freshly lit and they are still burning hot? Flowers. Flowers for days. Because they look beautiful when the poi are at their maximum brightness, and keeping the poi further away from your body at that point is also a good idea. Flowers and cool pendulum moves. I try and take it kind of slow within the first minute just to avoid transfers, and then speed up as time goes on, which also has kind of a cool dynamic effect to it. So yeah, that's what I would say. What's your favorite song to do poi to? It literally sometimes changes by the hour. Lately, I've been getting really into an iTunes playlist of classic rock picks. And for some reason, the two songs on that list that have totally become earworms for me are, oh man, one of them is a song called Legs, that's by ZZ Top, and it evidently came out in 1983. And it's interesting because all the ZZ Top I know of is really bluesy, and this one is centered around a really cool synth riff. So it kind of jumps out to me as being slightly different. I think that's what I like about it. And the other one is Surrender by Cheap Trick. And even though I'm a rock fan, somehow I had never heard Surrender before, and it's got such a good hook. So these two are the songs that I've been flowing to the most lately. G says, Drex, I love my Flowmojis. Fantastic. I love mine too. Viralis TV gives me a really happy emoji. I'm happy that you're on here right now, Viralis TV. Feel Keeling, wish I had a question, but every time I do, I seem to find a video of yours with an answer. Thank you for all the great work you do. Aw, thank you, Phil. That means a lot. That means a lot. And there are many, many videos I've done out there, so yeah, let me know. Let me know if you ever think of anything. I'll be happy to do it. Anybody else, also too, if you're looking, we've gotten some awesome people donating to me on the Super Chat function right here. You can throw a couple bucks my way. That would be awesome. It helps keep the channel alive. And if you've got any questions, I'd be more than happy to jump those to the top of the queue. Warren Woodruff, when people burn off with firepoi and they run them around the ground, sometimes there's a massive flame that shoots up. Yeah. Is there a trick to that? Yeah, so that's what's called a burn-off, right? So the trick to it, okay, so these are not tricks that I should actually be telling people because it can be dangerous, but the trick to that is use older wicks for that. Now there's a trade-off to that because the older wicks are also not going to stay lit as long. The thing is that with older wicks, they don't do as good a job absorbing fuel. So when they're freshly dipped in everything, they are just bleeding fuel. If you bring them down on the ground and just spin around on the ground and everything, you wind up with a bunch of fuel that just drips out onto the ground, and if they're lit at the time, that circle of fuel will then light up as well. The way usually that it's done is here. I can demonstrate for you. So there's a dance move in hip hop where you essentially cross your legs and come down like this, and then to get out of it, you uncross your legs and just go straight up, right? So the way I love to do this, honestly, is to, I don't know if I'm far enough back so you can see what I'm doing in the frame here, but as I go down, I'll touch each of my poi to the ground, and as I unwrap, I bring them up in corkscrew, right? And that will create a neat little ring of fire around you and a corkscrew of fire going up, which has a really cool visual effect to it. Yeah, so that is how you make that happen. But watch out because older wicks bleed a lot of fuel, and so there's a higher risk of getting a contact transfer from them. Interesting postscript to that is, so This year I actually switched my wicks from the Solar Flare wicks from Sunshine Fire Tools, because I don't think he makes them anymore. I could be wrong about that. To the whatchamajigget, Nova heads from Dark Monk. And the Nova heads are so unbelievably absorbent that, like, when I try to spin them out, I get like maybe a couple drops of fuel coming out. So they're terrible for doing burn-offs, but they're awesome in this regard too, because they stay lit forever and a day. So yeah, use older wicks, be very careful. There's a lot of places where it's a really bad idea to do burn-offs. And of course, another one that people really like doing is just, you know, spinning your poi really, really fast on either side of you, and you wind up with a pair of fire trails next to you, like in Back to the Future. But again, be very careful with these, because, you know, these kinds of contact flames are not always a good thing. Aspen Shakti Shala sends me a heart. I'm sending a heart right back, Aspen. Layla Gallardo Brown. I don't know if you're pronouncing the two L's as a Y or not. Says hi, gives me a smile, and says you inspire me. Well, thank you, Layla. I really appreciate that. You inspire me. Eastwood HD says, I'm hoping to teach 3-poi at flame. One workshop is on a concept of blurring the lines between 2-poi and 3-poi. Interesting. Any tips on breaking down concepts/theories rather than breaking down individual tricks? Yeah, so interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a YouTube channel called Every Frame a Painting. It is one of my favorite YouTube channels, and they just shut the channel down. The videos are still available, but the channel is no longer active. And they wrote a very long blog entry about kind of the process that went into creating their videos. And one of the interesting things that they talked about was how they put together the arguments in those videos, which is that they would put each individual argument on an index card and try to arrange them in such a way that it would make a cohesive argument. And that way they could like shift different pieces of that argument back and forth and everything, and in that way try to come up with the best way of presenting it. And I'm dying to try the same approach out for teaching workshops, to essentially figure out the best way of tying together all the ideas in a workshop. And you know, so try that out, because I'm planning on trying that out myself. You know, usually my mind works in such a way that I am very automatically like A to B to C kind of thing, and this is just kind of like instinctual for me. Oh, Warren Woodruff, thank you for the $5. I really appreciate that. Woo! Thank you for all the folks that are out there helping me out in Super Chat right now. Warren, if you got any other questions, please feel free to send them my way. So yeah, my advice would be to break out the different pieces of this lesson into individual things that you want to tell people, and individual sections and everything, and keep playing around with the, like, try having a couple friends that you explain the workshop to, and do it in different orders, and have them tell you which is the most, I guess, intuitive, and which one is the most streamlined, and work from there. That's what I would say. Will Hamilton, I've been practicing caps and flowers and was wondering if you had tips on proper form for tricks that include extensions. I read somewhere that it's important to raise your arm first and shoulder second. Yeah, so here's a thing that we have a bad habit doing in the poi world, is like lifting our shoulders up as we lift our arms. I did this for years, and it took years for me to train myself back out of it. Essentially, you want to think of your shoulder as like being kind of nailed down, and have your hand or elbow be the thing that moves up and around. Like, you want to keep your shoulders disengaged the entire time for 2 reasons. The first is that it's better for your shoulders, and there are some practical elements to this too. Like, Yuta would always teach timing and direction in such a way that you would keep the palm of your hand always pointing towards the sky. And this automatically means that you keep the alignment of your shoulders such that they don't lift up when you're going up top, right? Because from right here, I can't actually lift my shoulder very high. If I have my palm pointed down, I can lift my shoulder up. Palm up, shoulder has to stay down. Palm down, the shoulder can rise up. So try practicing your timing and direction with your palms pointed up, and see if that makes any kind of a difference in how your shoulders move with all this, right? Now, part of the reason why this is such a good idea is that you get the long line out of your neck, out of that. So the cat really desperately wants to play right now, but it's going to have to wait. I'm sorry, Theo. So, for example, the way I used to do flowers back in the day was something like this, where it was like a lot of effort involved in getting my hands moving. And you see how, like, you know, my elbows are bent and everything, and all of this effort is coming from the shoulders. If you can switch it up to being something more like this, something easier with like a little bit of give in your elbows, what you're gonna find is that you get that nice length out of your neck, which overall just looks prettier, and it makes the move look much more graceful and much more easy to your audience. Yeah. So yes. All good things for when you're training. Will Hamilton also asked, I asked because sometimes when I do anti-spins or caps, I get a weird, painless pop in my shoulder. Even though it's painless, I feel like I should be doing something differently. Okay, so this is actually a note for Will and all of our friends on the chat right now, and that is, before you start spinning, one thing you should always do is warm up your shoulders and get them ready to move. Because what can happen is, if you haven't been using your shoulders very much over the course of the day, if you've just been like sitting on a keyboard typing or what have you, then the socket might actually not be lubricated, right? So in order to lubricate it, you actually want to do just a little bit of easy movement. One thing I learned from my dance classes that really helps for this is to start off by, like, you know, just pacing around the room and rolling my wrists around. You know, just easy peasy kind of thing, not anything too hardcore, and then rolling them the other way, and then rolling your shoulders around, rolling them forward, and then taking your elbows back, taking your elbows forwards, and then practice reaching one hand up, the other hand up, and tripping on the cats, and the other hand up, and the other hand up. Do this for a couple minutes, and number one, you're going to find that after you do it, the blood flow to your shoulders is much better. Like, oh, you'll feel as though your shoulders are totally awake. And the other thing it'll do is it will move around all the fluids in the shoulder socket so that your shoulders are moving much more freely, and you're less likely to both injure yourself as well as to wear down that particular joint. So, yeah, it is super important, and I would recommend that all of you out there do that particular thing, yeah? Oh, Merman, Florida, thank you so much for the $10. That is amazing. Merry Christmas to you, too. Cool. Yeah, wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, Will, I hope that was helpful, and I hope that was helpful to all you guys out there, because shoulders, we only get one pair of them, so take good care of them. And I have known more than my fair share of poi spinners whose careers have ended because of shoulder problems. So be careful with them, seriously. And Theo is playing around with imaginary mice in the background, and that's okay. Warren Woodruff, thanks heaps for your inspiration, massive helps. Hey, you're welcome. Thanks heaps. You're Australian, aren't you? Lizia White says, I'm late but here. Hey, welcome. We're happy to have you. Again, thank you to Merman Florida, and thank you to everybody else who's been using the super chat function to help support this channel, which I really appreciate. This is my full-time gig, and all the help that you give me is super duper amazing, and it helps keep the content a-coming. Our friend from Russia says, why so much more poi spinner don't make video content on YouTube, only Facebook? The short answer to that is that people are creatures of trends and fads. And right now, everybody in the American flow arts world thinks that YouTube is passé, and they're totally wrong. It's just that Facebook and Instagram are the sexy new things. But the problem is that when there's a specific move that you want to learn, or something you want to learn about, a concept or something like that, search functions on Instagram and Facebook are like non-existent. You have, like, they're good for seeing new content and things that'll entertain you right away. They are terrible for archival information. YouTube, because it's built on the back of like Google search algorithms, is awesome for archival content. And it's one of the reasons why I've stayed primarily a YouTube-based creator instead of switching my focus over to Facebook and Instagram. You know, I don't think those platforms are going anywhere anytime soon, but at the same time, I think that a lot of American poi spinners are focusing more on what's new, which is not a bad idea because that's where the audience is. And, you know, I'm creating content for those platforms as well. But it's also good not to forget that there were opportunities on the older platforms and realize that those opportunities aren't going anywhere. Right now, YouTube is something like the second or third most used search engine in the world, like just behind Google itself. So there's a massive audience of people out there that are using it, and it's a big missed opportunity for a lot of people not to use the platform. But that's all I'll say on that one. Or Russian spinner, it's no comfortable because Facebook in Russia very slowly and so much more bugs. Sorry for my English. Oh, it's totally fine. And that also, by the way, is why I have a profile now on vContact or VK. Because I realized that my content on Facebook wasn't getting to Russian eyeballs, so I started using what the Russians do. And hopefully it's getting me more eyeballs in Russia. Based upon my analytics, it seems like that is indeed the case. Eastwood HD says, sweet, thanks for the tips. One more question. What are you using to mount your poi and other props on the wall? My roommate is getting pretty sick of having poi all over the place. Awesome. So what I'm using are pegboards, and I actually have an entire video about how to create a prop wall using pegboards. I have 3 different 3-foot by 2 foot kind of rectangles of pegboard that I've mounted to the wall using like 1-inch by 2-inch strips behind it. And then you can buy all kinds of attachments for pegboards that allow you to hang various things. Do a quick YouTube search for prop wall or prop rack, and that video will almost certainly pop up. And like literally I go through it step by step and I show you the process of making it. And one of the things that I love most about that prop wall is that the pieces are movable. So, you know, already in the time that we've had this prop wall, we've changed the arrangement of props on it at least 3 or 4 times. It's super flexible, so I highly recommend. Cool, Merman, Florida. Unfortunately, I'm at work and can't ask questions in any detail, but thank you for the years of inspiration. My pleasure, Merman, and thank you again for the $10. Like, the super chats, it means a lot to me, guys. Thank you so much. Warren Woodruff, laugh aloud, New Zealand. Close enough. Close enough. Mr. Mackey says, how does moderate to strong winds affect your flow? It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm like strong winds, if I'm trying to do contact is absolute torture. It's awful. Things like tosses, I can sometimes work around the winds, but like just, you know, standard pattern spinning and contact and all that stuff, no problem for me. There's a little bit of resistance, but it's not. I can easily cope with that. And Altus if you use heavier poi, wind won't matter. I mean, it depends. If the heavier poi has more surface area, it does matter. But you know, there's a whole sliding scale there. Wind only affects light or veiled poi. Interesting. Mr. Mackey, wind does affect it, though you may have to spin slower to see it or have stronger winds. It's an area to explore if you haven't. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't much notice it when I'm doing kind of pattern spinning or traditional style poi, but wind is the bane of my existence when I'm doing anything contact related, and that includes gunslingers, because like I do all my gunslingers with sets of contact poi now, and The problem you run into is that while there's enough mass on the thumb end not to cause you too many problems, the pinky end has so little mass that like very, very small things can mess with it enough to throw it off of the planes that you want to keep. Which is one of the reasons that I enjoy doing gunslingers with my spinoptic poi, because the tethers are a little bit less pliable, so they tend to they tend to resist those changes a bit more. Hugo Carrera, greetings from Argentina. How's it going? I'm a great admirer of your tutorials. Fantastic. Oh, I missed one up in here. Foster's Factory says, any tips for spinning with two people? Me and my girlfriend both want to perform together. Hey, I have not one, but two different sets of tutorial series on partner poi. There's one that I did with I'm trying to remember her last name now. Her first name is Morgan Howe. A couple of years ago, when I was first getting like super deep into partner poi, and then I did another set of 1-minute partner poi tutorials with my friend Riki back earlier this year over the summer. So again, like do a search for partner poi tutorials, and I'm sure that both of those series will pop up. Yeah, and the good news is like, so the absolute biggest thing that you need to know going into any kind of partner poi is communication is the single most important thing that you're going to have to worry about. Be very clear with each other. Be very forgiving with each other. Never take anything for granted. We all want to be able to spin and have the other person just kind of read our minds. And even if you're fully explaining everything that you're doing, you'll be shocked at how often things will still go wrong. So be forgiving and get your communication down. Those are the two biggest things I would say. And again, how's it going, Hugo Carrera? Warren Woodruff asks, what are some of your favorite things to do with horizontal spinning? Sure, so horizontal spinning is one of those things that I really want to explore in a lot more depth one of these days. But off the top of my head, I really like doing corkscrews, and especially 4-beat corkscrews, because I can kind of like trick out the length of them a little bit more. Nick Woolsey always talks about one of the things that he uses 5-beat weaves for is getting a weave to last just a little bit longer and hang in the air. Exact same reason that I like 4-beat corkscrews. There's also like doing horizontal flowers, which you can do all kinds of plane looping in order to get back and forth between your vertical planes and your horizontal planes, yeah? Also, I really like, so this is like an old G plane breaking move, where say like if you're doing a cap or something like that, you can stall out and bring them both back around and kind of play around with vertical and horizontal caps on one side of your body. And I like using those as transition tools to get back and forth across two different sides of my body, like so. It works a lot better with short poi. If you can do these stalls cleaner, if you can do these stalls clean with long poi, whew, the world is yours for the taking, let me tell you. So yeah, those are my favorite things to do with horizontal planes. And also just, I enjoy breaking into horizontal planes in really, really unexpected places. Like, a trick that I got from Marvin Ong many years ago, he was doing this with clubs, and I'm like, can I do that with poi? Was playing around with, actually, what he was doing it was off of, I think, this hybrid right here, a 4-pedal anti-spin versus 2-pedal in-spin, and to basically do a stall on one side and use that to go into either a corkscrew or a horizontal buzzsaw, yeah? So those are my favorite things to do with horizontal planes right now. And it's something that I really want to explore more, because I know that there's a lot out there, and it was very much a thing that we have not explored in detail yet. Thank you for the question, and thank all of you guys for the questions too. And again, if anybody wants to help support the channel, you can use that super chat function, and I really appreciate it. This is my full-time job, and it means a lot, the support. Silver Dogface says, how should I go about getting isolations down and then implementing them into my spinning? Okay, so I'm going to tell you straight up, isolations are not something you're going to get in a week. They are something that take weeks, if not months, to get down. And you just have to, right from the get-go, accept the fact that this is a big investment of time that you're making and be okay with it. That said, the best exercise I know for learning isolations is to do this thing where you're basically like standing with your arm in front of you like you're going to block somebody karate chopping you. Take your other hand with the poi in it and drape the poi behind your arm and try and get your hand to go around the other forearm in such a way that you're keeping the tether touching your forearm. And you should have your hand in the poi always at opposite ends with your wrist more or less being the center of the circle, right? Cool. So make sure to learn that going both forwards as well as reverse. And learning it with both hands, right? Once you got all of that down, your next mission, of course there's the whole buzzsaw isolation that everybody knows and loves, but I also think it's a really good idea to get down your isolations in wall plane, like this. And there's basically 4 positions that you go for on that. So right now, my poi are turning clockwise relative to me, and you want to train both having your left arm in front as well as your right arm in front. In fact, a really great exercise that you can do is go right arm in front, left arm in front, right arm in front, left arm in front, and try and keep that isolation as stable as possible. Then you want to do the same thing but going counterclockwise. Again, right hand in front and left hand in front. And then never use this side, so it looks kind of a mess. But yeah, practice those 4 positions and your isolations will be awesome, and you'll be able to do really crazy things like, isolated weaves, which, people used to think of this as just being the most amazing thing when I first started to learn to spin poi about 10 years ago. And now, nobody does this stuff anymore. And for my money, I still think it looks really cool. But, yeah, that's what I recommend. And what, G asks, what type of rope do you use for your Umoja tethers? The stock tether is too springy for me. Yeah, so I use the Smithy rope from LanternSmith. Basically, I have Umoja heads, Flow Toys, pod lights, Smithy rope from LanternSmith, and then the Illumigrips inserts with Night Eyes inside of LanternSmith palm grips for my handles. That's the complete set on my Frankenpoi, and I dearly love them. Jason Terry says, Merry Christmas from Newfoundland, Canada. Hey, Merry Christmas to you too. Yeah, really awful confessions. I went through a period in my teenage years where I was totally obsessed with this cartoon called Gargoyles that Disney put together. And there was a bunch of fanfic on the internet at the time. This was right at the beginning of the web becoming a place where fanfic was a thing. And one of my favorite authors was an author from Newfoundland, and there would be all kinds of fun references to Canada and Newfoundland in his fanfic. The characters would suddenly develop an affiliation, a love for the Tragically Hip, which, my condolences to you guys. I know Gordy Downey, that finally kick in the bucket was a big kick in the ass. So, yeah. Anyhow, Eastwood HD asks, final question, I swear, you're fine. Also, just to let you guys know, I have to get off at 4 o'clock my time, so I've got a little less than 5 minutes to go here. So throw me all those questions while you still got the chance. Eastwood HD, final question, I swear. I miss seeing you play with 3 and 4 poi. Do you still spin 3 or 4? I'd love to see more 3 or 4 poi content. So the funny thing is I think I spin 3 and 4 poi all the time. I just happen to do it in the form of gunslingers. In my mind, I never really stopped at that exploration. I just turned it, I kind of let it mutate into something different. Gunslinger stuff, when you're doing one hand with a gunslinger and the other one a traditional grip, it's basically the same thing as 3 poi. And both hands doing gunslinger stuff is essentially like 4 poi. Will I ever go back to doing stuff with 4 full-length poi? Probably at some point. I don't know. The gunslinger stuff is something that I find to be a really, really fun challenge, so I don't see myself getting sick of that anytime soon, but you never know. You never know what might happen next, yeah? Cool. So I've got a couple minutes left. Anybody else want to throw some questions at me here? Or throw me a couple bucks on the super chat? Because it's super helpful. And thank you to everybody who has already contributed to that today thus far. I think this is actually the best live stream I've done in terms of both interactivity as well as people helping me on the super chat. So that's awesome. And I'm going to try and make this a thing that I do every 2 weeks from here on out. So, yeah. Send me those questions. Send me those questions. And also, if you're just joining in and you're curious what the 5 suggestions for gifts for your Flomies are, ticket to their favorite Flow Festival. You can find a list of them at drexfactory.com/calendar. A prop bag from Modec. A tripod with a cell phone clip. Again, I got a link to these down in the description of the video. And a custom embossed fire safety towel from Mayday Atlanta. Look, it's got my name on it. Isn't that cool? And finally, these Arctic Bluetooth headphones, which have awesome drivers and are only like 20 bucks. So, yeah, those are my suggestions for gifts for the flow artist on your list. And unfortunately, it is now 4 o'clock, so I'm going to have to bid you all adieu. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your smiling faces on here when I come back in a couple weeks. So thank you, and I will catch you by the by. Peace out, guys.